caregiving is 24/7, 365. And so while I obviously feel like adult day is a huge piece of that, because that can take away 40 to 50 hours a week that you wouldn't have to be doing that.
Gloria Steinem once said, "We will never solve the feminization of power until we solve the masculinity of wealth." Barbara Provost and Maggie Nielsen are the team at Purse Strings that will help you navigate the ins and outs of financial independence so that you can be financially fearless. This is Women in Money, the shit we don't talk about.
This podcast is a new one today. We have Tia, who is the executive director of the National Adult Day Service Association and a nationally recognized expert in adult day services, dementia care, and person-centered care. And since we know, and we always talk about this caregiving pandemic coming our way, we're excited to dive into this conversation about adult day services and what the heck those are and how they can help us out. So before we dive in, Tia, could you introduce a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Sure, I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me. My name's Tia Sauceda, and as you said, I'm the executive director of NADSA. We just call it NADSA, National Adult Day Services Association. But I come to this role just in the last few months. Prior to that, I have operated adult day centers since I was very, very young. I've been in the field for 25 years. I started as a direct care provider and have worked my way up through this. At the core of everything that I've done, caring for older adults, caring for individuals with disabilities, is the caregiver. And I come to that both from a personal and a professional point of view. My mother is the youngest of 8, and I have watched her be the caregiver for both of her parents and many of her siblings. And so growing up, that was just what I saw that you do. And so along with really providing the adult day service, which gives people an opportunity to have something of their own, a purpose-filled day, care through professional staff, at the same moment, you're also giving that caregiver a break. That caregiver now has time and opportunity to step away. And so for me, it's always been twofold. You can't have one without the other. So if you're not taking care of the caregiver, you don't have a participant. That's what we call them in adult day, a participant to care for. But if you don't take care of that participant, your caregiver is going to burn out and nobody's going to make it. So I come to it very, very passionately. I think it's one of the things that molded me and made me who I am. And I've worked with so many amazing, dedicated people along the way. So I'm happy to be here and talk about it and hopefully share more information and empower not only people to understand the burden that it is, but also the gift that it is, because it is not all bad.
Wow. We're so glad we found you, Tia, because as we talk in the financial arena, that we have a caregiving tsunami is what we call it, with like 10 or 11,000 people turning 65 every day in the United States for the next 7 years. It's that swell of the baby boomers, right, that goes through all these different transitions. Well, right now we're aging, we're turning 65, we're retiring. So a lot of things are happening. And, you know, as I see in my peer group, we see more like, I don't know, physical therapy groups starting up because we're all playing pickleball and falling down. You know what I mean? Then you see the short-term care, then you see the long-term, you see the progression, right? So it's a financial issue. It's a woman's issue. And so we talked to a lot of financial professionals about it. And we know that what you provide are adult day services. And we would love for you to really give a definition around what that is, how it's leveraged. I don't think people have ever heard of this before.
You're so right. And I think one of the things we say in the industry is it's the best kept secret, and we don't want it to be. So adult day services is not a fringe service. It's not something that's on the peripheral. Adult day services is a core home and community-based services that allow individuals to live at home. And the majority of them are living with or near a caregiver. So either it's a child who's taken on the role as caregiver, a spouse who's taken on the role, but it could be a neighbor. It could be a family friend. So one of the things you'll hear me say is I don't always say your loved one, because, you know, sometimes you're caring for somebody that you don't necessarily love, but you're there to do it for them. So adult day, let me get back to adult day, is a place for people to come during the day for activities, socialization, and care. There are two different kind of models in adult day. You have a health model and a social model. And you can have a hybrid. I mean, a health model could also have a social component, and a social model typically always has some sort of health component. There's just a little bit of nuance throughout that. Most adult day centers are open Monday through Friday during work hours. And the real goal for adult day is for that person who's a caregiver to be able to drop their person off or get a ride to the adult day center so that now they can go and do the things they need to do without worry. A lot of times you'll see working professional women, and again, it's well over 60% of caregivers are women, and they may be working, but they're on their phone, they're checking their apps, they're making sure that mom and dad are okay. When they're in adult day, they don't have to do that, right? Like I can truly clock out, and then there's two beautiful things that happen. One, the person, often a person living with dementia or a person with other comorbidities, has something that's theirs. They go, they meet people, they have a real true connection, but they're also getting assistance with their ADLs. They're also getting a meal. They're also getting connection and community. But at that same moment, they are able to be themselves. So when they come back together, so when the caregiver picks up their person, they're happy to see one another, and I always say, no matter how good the relationship is, you cannot withstand 24 hours together. You need a break. And both parties need that break, not just the caregiver, right? The person also needs a break. So adult day really provides that to people. The thing that I will say, and there's a lot of buzzwords out there, person-centered care is one of them. But at its core, adult day was person-centered before person-centered was a thing. And what I mean by that is each adult day center truly looks at who they're serving. They meet that person where they are. They develop a care plan to be able to support them through this aging process. And I've seen people in adult day for 15 plus years. If you think about what a solution that is, that's 15 years that caregiver was able to continue to work. 15 years that caregiver was able to be present at work, because that's another piece of this puzzle. And it's the lowest cost option. So that's the other thing that I think is so important to understand. Adult day, when you look at it compared to the other long-term care options, is a fraction of the cost, and you get higher level of care. And so for me, I'm very passionate about adult day. It's been my life's work. And I am so thrilled to be in this role where I can help adult day centers kind of grow and see the opportunities. But along with that, I also get to connect with people who are caregiving, who desperately need support. I can't tell you how many phone calls we get that people are just like, I don't know what to do. I heard of adult day. Tell me what that is.
Well, are these like private facilities that people open? And how much do they typically charge? And how do people find you?
It is a wide gamut. So there are many day centers that are nonprofit. So they're, a nonprofit organization. There are adult day centers that are within like government community, like a city may have an adult day center, for example. And then there are private entities, and they range from a one owner center to a 30 owner center. There are franchises. And, I don't think it matters if it's a for-profit or a nonprofit. My experience has been the majority of people in this field are doing it for the right reasons. They're here to care for people. It's just a business definition, basically, for nonprofit versus for-profit. Centers range from all levels. So you may have a center that specializes in people living with dementia, and they have 30 people. That's kind of where I have been. Like my wheelhouse was that. But, we also serve individuals with disabilities. So younger adults, 18 and up, who go to these centers, they have the opportunity to interact, make friends, be in a community. They often are out in the community. So they'll take outings into the larger community, go do projects, things like that. Adult day at its core is really that, to get someone out of their home, give them a safe place to go. Beyond that, when you talk about cost, and obviously it does vary, it's different in every state, but on average, it's about $100 a day, roughly. And so if you think about the level of care that you're getting for that, 8 hours of care, usually two meals and a snack, nurse oversight is often included. And I anecdotally can tell you how many times one of our nurses, you have a different set of eyes on somebody, they see things differently, right? And so if I'm caring for my mom, I don't notice that she's acting a little off because I'm right here, it's so close. But the nurse may go, something's not quite right. Why don't you get her into the doctor? And it's a UTI. And it's something that we can fix quickly. I've also had my nurse, detect a heart attack and a stroke and get emergency services there right away. That person was back in our day program in the next couple of days. Whereas if they had been home alone, what might have happened, So it's really that eyes on the person that I think is so important. But the value is there. I mean, if you're looking at comparatively to a assisted living or skilled nursing facility, it's a fraction, a third of the cost. And I'm being generous when I say that. So, yeah.
It feels very comparable to like daycare for children, maybe even cheaper than that, which is crazy. Is there like we always talk about like the 7 daily things you need to be able to do by yourself: eating, dressing, bathroom. Is there like a certain level where it's like we can no longer serve them, or do you guys have kind of limits like that?
Sure. And each day program is different. I will tell you, from my perspective, a lot of day programs, if that person is living with dementia, and that kind of tends to be one of the big populations that we serve. So as long as they're redirectable and maybe don't need full-on weight-bearing assistance. So for example, they are able to do a transfer or something like that. But some adult day centers, health model day centers, have lifts and have full-time nursing staff, and they can take higher acuity individuals. And so it really does depend. I will tell you the one thing that I've seen year after year is that people don't access these services soon enough. So they wait, and I get it. There is this concept of like, nobody is like, ooh, I cannot wait to go to adult day, right? Like as we age, we think we're never going to need this. This is nice to have, but it's not for me. And what I've learned is there is a sweet spot. So if you get that person there, if you're starting to see that they're declining, they need a little bit of reminders and assistance, they can then age in place there for much, much longer. So for example, if someone comes to me by the time they are already needing a lot of assistance with their ADLs or extremely confused and looking for the exit, we call it exit seeking, that's going to be harder to meet their needs at day one versus if I met them 6 months earlier and now we have a relationship, they are safe, they feel comfortable. Now when I have to redirect them, it's not a problem, right? Like they're able to meld into the day program. So I think people wait too long. They don't know about us, as you said. And so the way to find a day program in your area is our website, NADSA.org, has a locator on it, and you can go in and put your address or your state, city, and find the closest adult day centers and their contact information. The other tip I have is every county, every state has a area agency on aging, so a AAA, and they are a great resource. They often provide information and referral. So they're going to know who's in their community, who's providing these services. And they'll also be able to kind of direct you based on what your payer is, because people pay for adult day in different ways.
And so I know you shared a bit about kind of how you saw your mom take care of her parents and then all the siblings, because she's the youngest daughter. So she kind of had that, which is kind of opposite that we usually hear. We usually see the oldest, but I can see how now the youngest has to take care of the oldest. And so is this kind of what opened your eyes to the challenges families face with caregiving? Is that really how this door kind of opened for you? Or was there another experience that added to that?
It definitely played a part, right? So watching my mom go through this, as a young woman at 28, her mom had cancer and needed caregiving, and then 10 years later her dad needed it. So that certainly colored like my experience of where I was coming from. I fell in love with adult day in a very different way. I had met a woman who was an activity coordinator, and I thought, oh my gosh, this is the greatest job ever, right? You get to hang out with older adults, you get to be creative. And so it for me was an instant, like just a literal spark of this is what I want to be doing. This is who I am. And I think watching my mom do that over the years really played into that. The other piece I will say is as I grew in my career, she then was taking on the care of other siblings. And so I felt like I could help a little bit. And that was really not that I, probably did that much, but I was at least someone who knew the words that they were talking about when we were talking about an ombudsman or, these other things. And so I say that because this is what happens when you're talking about women in the sandwich generation caring for people is 7 out of 10 of those caregivers they're working, They are managing multiple things. 1 in 4, I think, are professional caregivers themselves. So they're a nurse, they're somebody in the field, they're providing in-home care. So if you're kind of good at it, right, and this is what you do for your profession, then it's really, really transferred to your personal life. And so I lived that a little bit firsthand, not that I'm a nurse by any means, but I'm the one that they're going to come to when they have a question about someone with dementia. I'm the one they're going to come to when they have a question about Medicare, Medicaid, those type of things. And that's what we see happen. We see women doing double duty, right? They're not only working, and sometimes triple duty. They're caring for their parent, they're caring for their child, and there's no break and there's no off button, right? I think that's the other thing is if you're an empathetic, caring individual, you don't know how to say no. So you just keep going and eventually it catches up with you.
Yeah, it does land on women. I mean, I'm sure you see that day to day to day. I mean, it does land on men, but the lion's share is for women. And I do think if there's like a woman in the family who's the nurse, everyone turns to that person and says, oh, well, you handle this part of it, right? And oftentimes the data will tell you it's the oldest daughter because she's the most responsible one. Typically, right? Or the one who's just naturally is managing a lot of other things. I don't know why that is, birth order or whatever, but that's what happens. And we see that a lot. And it's financially taxing, emotionally taxing. And, suddenly they have to learn a whole new vernacular and talk to people, doctors, nurses, other caretakers. It's a lot. What do you see happening with women in these roles?
Yeah, I think the challenge that I see, and as a woman in this demographic, right, I'm the oldest daughter. Fortunately, my parents are extremely healthy right now, and I'm grateful for that. But you see women in their 30s to their 50s, like that's typically who we're seeing. 35% of them are women of color. And so that disproportionately affects that group. And the other piece that I think is so critical is those are our prime earning years. Right? Like 30 to 50 is our prime years that we're earning and growing our careers and being able to do that. And so if you've got one hand over here and one hand over here, your productivity goes down, your ability to work goes down. And so I think that's the piece that I see that is so detrimental. It's expensive to be a caregiver. It costs around $10,000 a year out of pocket to just do this out of the goodness of your heart. Because you're losing wages, you're losing opportunities. People who maybe would be up for a promotion, but say, oh, my life is just too challenging right now. I can't take that step. And so that's the part that I see that kind of breaks my heart. Day to day, when I was in the adult day centers, I can't tell you how many times I would see a woman rushing to drop their mom off. Kids are still in the car. They've got to take them to school and then somehow go to work, be a productive human, and then come back and be happy to see both their children and their parents. One of the other things I heard directly from someone is, meal times are really challenging, right? So older adults often eat earlier than a child who's got soccer. And so one thing that I can really recommend is if you have the ability to create some solutions that will make your life easier, do it. So for example, we used to provide meals, and this woman would get this take-home meal that she could warm up. It was a good quality, high nutritional meal. It wasn't a peanut butter sandwich. And she could feed her mom at 5 p.m., even though she wasn't going to feed her children until 7:30 by the time they were done with sports and all these other things. Just that alone, she said, saved her. And I didn't realize how important that was, right? Like we thought we were doing a great thing by providing people with food. We knew that was good. But at the end of the day, the fact that that was one less thing she had to worry about, that was one less challenge. She could sit with her mom while her mom ate. She had some time to do that because she wasn't in the kitchen also trying to get the chicken nuggets for the kids or whatever that was. So I say be creative where you can. You can get pre-made meals. You could pre-make meals and freeze them so that you always had something ready for them. It doesn't have to be a Hungry Man dinner from the frozen section. Like there's really good, healthy options out there. But that's a simple solution that might really give you some time back in your day.
Yeah, it's a balance of what you want to do. And, sometimes I think there's just so much pressure of like, well, I should be making a home cooked meal. Like they always did this for me, like all this stuff. I love your eye roll right there.
The mom guilt is so real.
Yeah. And like you want to do your best, but you have all these people to take care of. And I think the one thing I loved about what you said earlier was just like, they can drop them off knowing that they're in good care, because there's always like, yeah, you could have another sibling come over who's not as familiar with the plan right now, but like, and yeah, there's eyes on them for a couple hours, but you're not totally off, which that mental load is just so much of just like, are they going to be okay? Should I be at my phone? There was a ping, is it mom? Like all these things. And so it's like, you're never fully off. And so when you drop them off, it's like, well, if they need 911, they'll call them. There's nurses, there's food. Like there should be, unless someone's actually dying, there should be no reason you call me, which is like such a sigh of relief, I think, because otherwise you're not, that being off is so hard for a caretaker. I think that's like the biggest thing. And so what other like support options do you recommend kind of people know about? I like how you recommend the food, the daycare. Are there any other ones that you feel like people are just not taking advantage of, especially when they're families, kids, parents, dogs, work, all the things?
Yeah, I definitely think that not enough people get multiple solutions. They think, oh, I'm going to do this one thing and that's going to help. And the reality is it's not, right? Caregiving is 24/7, 365. And so while I obviously feel like adult day is a huge piece of that, because that can take away 40 to 50 hours a week that you wouldn't have to be doing that, you can also supplement that by having someone come in the morning or in the evening to help mom get dressed or get showered. Showering is a big piece of it, right? Like, this is not a comfortable thing. We have professionals who they know how to give somebody a shower. They know how to help them stay warm so that it's not a triggering event. All of these things that your average first daughter doesn't know, right? And is really uncomfortable. And so sometimes you don't have the facility for that, or sometimes you don't have the right things. Adult days often can give people showers as well. So I think that's something to keep in mind. Utilize multiple components of each service. So for example, if you're going to an adult day and they also offer a support group, go to that support group. If you are going to an adult day that also offer physical therapy, I heard you talk about, like within their community, they also offer a hairdresser or a foot care person. Utilize those, because those are appointments you're not making out in addition to this. Having someone come in your home a couple hours, beginning, end of the day, that takes that burden off you. And now you get to just sit down on the couch and say, gosh, mom, let's watch a show, or let's color or play a game. Now that's quality time. So I think that's the piece that I really think is important. And I don't know if this is a good place to say this, but I always tell people you have to protect that familial relationship. Because at the moment that you stop being their daughter, you are 100% their caregiver, you're burnt out. You cannot imagine how difficult that is, right? So I say you have to protect it, right? So if there's a job that you can let someone else do, let them do it. And sometimes it's a matter of money, right? Like, I'm not saying that there's not a financial implication with that, because sometimes there is. But if you have a friend who says, how can I help? You know what? You could bring dinner every Tuesday. That would help me. Because people ask, they want to help, but we don't know exactly what to say back, right? And so that's my piece of advice, is utilize any and every resource out there and use multiple ones. Don't think one is going to fix this. You need supports from every angle.
Such good information. Yeah. Because you don't want that relationship to break, which it so can. I can just see being like, mom, like I can't stand being with her anymore. She's driving me crazy, You hear that from women sometimes, and it's sad, because it's like, these are the last years of her life. You want to really make sure that you tie it with a bow and not just cause it being aggravated with one another.
I feel like there's like always like the nagging of needing them to do things, or like take care of themselves or take their meds. And then now it's like, you're just the nagger in the relationship, like do this, do that, and it's like, I just want to be the friend sometimes, or like the fun one. I feel like mom always gets the mean card.
Uh-huh. I love that you brought that up, because that's what happens. And then you, as the caretaker, are nagging your children, you're nagging your parent, you're probably nagging your spouse. You don't want to be nagging anybody, frankly. Like, you would much rather be sitting over here in peace. But these are things that have to be done. And women take that on. They take that role on so deeply and seriously within themselves. And so that's why I say, farm it out if you can, right? Like, farm it out. Let somebody else be that person. I had a good friend in the industry who would always say, everyone has a role to play. And so it's okay if this isn't your role, right? Like, so if there's multiple children in the family and there's one who is just really financially sound and has no problem paying the bills and is really able to handle that with little effort, let them. Don't own everything. I think that's the other thing we tend to do. It's not going to get done the way I want to get it done. And I think you got to give that up. You have to be willing to let some other people help. And you're right, it might not look exactly how you did it, but you didn't have to do it. And that's the key.
Yeah. I do have an important question. And I think about my parents, both who have passed, but I don't think this is something would have been fantastic for my dad, but I'm sure he would have been fighting us all the way to go.
Men are more on that train. Women are more social, where men are like, I'm not going to go meet new people.
Yeah. Sometimes people find that awkward, just like any new environment, and I'm sure they would fight it. So what are some tips on introducing them to adult daycare?
I think that's really critical. First of all, you have to set people up for success. I say that to say that work with your day center, look at the calendar. Don't bring your dad to visit on the day that they're doing something he would not like. I always use this example, right? Like if I don't know that somebody doesn't hear well, then how can I make sure that they're successful? You have to really think about this person and who they are, and then look to try to make that first day successful. The other thing is they're not going to instantly love it, right? Like I think that's the piece that is really hard sometimes. And we as the caregiver often hear the worst. Like, you know how it is. If you tell the person you love, they get the worst version of you. So they're not going to get in the car afterwards and say, thank you. I really appreciate you taking me here. I mean, not to say that never happens. It does happen. But in reality, this is the first little toe dip into the pool, right? So I've now, either as a caregiver or as an individual, I've realized I need some help. And so you're coming to this place and you're starting to realize okay, this is a little scary. So what we say is, first of all, it takes time. So I could quite literally count after 5 visits, I would see people's shoulders relax. So if those 5 visits all happen in 1 week, that's different than if they happen over the course of a month, right? So you're going to have to be patient and give it time. The other piece is start slow. If you need to just do a short day visit, reinforce that you're coming back. Honestly, negativity around this idea that you're being put somewhere, right? And I always tell people, don't ever put me anywhere. That's not going to go over well. But older adults are afraid of that. It's a very fearful thing that you're being put somewhere. So if you're dropping your person off, make sure you're back on time. Make sure that you're reinforcing to them that you don't live here. This is not where you're going to be living. This is just a place to go during the day. The other thing is you can call it whatever you want. We had people who called it the club, the center, the veterans group, whatever that may be. That's okay. Find a name, find something that works for them. And then the other piece is, you mentioned men, right? Especially of that generation, they didn't have hobbies. What did you do for fun? I didn't do anything. I went to work, And so I think you have to be creative. And one of my favorite stories of all time is I was working with a gentleman. His name is Mario. And he was a man's man, right? This man he had been a mason, a bricklayer. He had been working up until about 6 months, and he had a health incident that just really changed his whole trajectory. His wife had just passed, and his daughter was thrown into this role of caregiver. I mean, I'm not making this up. This is genuinely one of my favorite people of all time. She was exhausted. She had children. She was like, please take him. So he came for his first day of adult day, and it didn't go well. He was not happy to be there. He was trying to leave. He was a little bit aggressive and angry. She came to pick him up, and I said, I'm going to be real honest with you. I'm not sure this is going to work. We'll give it another try, but this is looking a little, it may be not the right fit for him. And she looked at me and she said, oh, please try. Please, I need you more than you ever would know. And so I said, well, of course we will. Brought him in the next day. And this is in the mid 2000s when, I don't know if you guys followed the coupon clipping, mass hysteria that was coupon clipping. I was a crazy coupon lady. And so I brought coupons that the participants would cut out, and we would sort them and we would donate them down the hall to the WIC office. And so this was something we were doing sort of casually, just for fun. He comes in and I said, Mario, I am on a deadline. I am late. I need your help. And he sat down and he started clipping coupons. And we would sort them in boxes. You'd put the baby coupons, the canned goods, the beauty, all those things. And lucky for us, the WIC office literally was down the hall. And so he would load them up and he would put them on his walker and he'd walk them down, and we'd donate them to the WIC office. And the ladies there were always so appreciative. He could see that the waiting room was full of people. He could see the bins where his coupons were. And that is my favorite story because he was not the typical person that you're going to find in an adult day center. And if you had told this man that he would find contentment in his last years clipping coupons, he would have had some choice words and probably punched you in the face. Like, absolutely would not have been that person. But adult day can really connect with people on an individual level, whereas sometimes that's not possible in other settings. And so because I was able to figure out what made him find purpose, which was being useful. He wasn't about leisure. He didn't want to be over there painting something for fun. He had work to do. And so he attended that day program for 5+ years. As his dementia progressed, so did his ability to clip coupons, right? We didn't have him stop clipping coupons. We just changed. He clipped the expired ones, right? Like it was perfectly fine. Make it accessible to people at different levels within their core of who they are. And so for me, that's the big difference that Adult Day offers. And that's how you get people. You connect with them. And every adult day that I've worked with, that's what they do. They see you for who you are, not just this diagnosis, right? You don't start with, here's a person with Alzheimer's who has diabetes. No, you start with, here's someone who's worked their whole life to own their own business and might need some support with ADLs. That's the secondhand part, not the first part.
I love that story. And it is so funny. Like, I can see them needing a purpose. I just need to do something, especially if you have been working your whole life, doing all those things, and you're fresh out of work. Barb, if I even gave you a painting, I could see you being like, I'm not doing this. Like, what's next? You know what I mean? Not like you're there yet. Yeah, there's some people who just have such a drive to do things that leisure was never a thing, and it's not going to start now.
And Adult Day gives them a reason to get up and get dressed, right? Like, we see that all the time. People come in and say, Dad's sleeping all day. I can't get him excited about anything. And after about a week in Adult Day, it's Saturday and he's like, where's the bus? I'm ready to go. Because as a human, that's something that drove him and he needed. I can relate to that. Like, I need a purpose. And everything that I do, I need purpose. And so that doesn't end when you get a certain diagnosis. That doesn't end when you reach a certain age. Like, that core of who you are is still there. And I think Adult Day is really good at decoding that and figuring out like what that is for each person.
Do you find that most people go like 5 days a week, or is it more like 3 or a couple times a month, or what do you kind of see on average?
People usually start out 2 to 3 days a week. What I find is as they get comfortable, they add more days, right? So start out with 2 days a week. That gets you in the routine. You still have time to do doctor's appointments and other things on these other days. But as that person progresses, it's a lot easier to add another day. 5 days a week, I think, is amazing if you can do it, because that is truly giving you a real break. But the other piece is you do have to know your person. And so if someone is extremely resistant, don't start them 5 days a week, because it's not going to work. And then you've lost your opportunity. The other thing I find is timing is really important. And so just because maybe you go for that first tour and it doesn't work, maybe your person is not quite there yet, pause, give it a couple months and try again, right? Because unfortunately they are going to decline. And as they decline, it may be easier to help them transition into an adult day center. So while I think it's important to stay the course, it's also important not to force it if it's really not working.
Tia, I think you've given a huge sigh of relief to so many women listening that are like, oh, I got to check this out, right? This is new. This is new for many of us because, you don't need something until you need it, right? And I think a lot of women are probably thinking, I'm going to find this place and see if this works with my parent, my sister, whomever it might be in their lives, because this is exactly what I need to get back into my routine of what I was doing before I was a caretaker. And I'm going to check this out. I just hear a collective sigh of relief for so many women now that we've unpacked what is this and where do we find it and what do they do and how can they help me? So this has been fantastic.
Yeah, and I would just say that hearing like your passion behind it and like the want to help people, I think sometimes like some of these homes may get a bad rep or, it's just people clocking in, clocking out. And it's like, no, I can tell you're like how do we make this most successful for everyone as individual humans, which is just such an exciting thing to see. And just, again, like Barb said, a sigh of relief. But before we log off, there is a question we ask all of our guests. And so with all your experience and working with all these different people, what does financial freedom mean to you?
You have no idea how timely this question is for me personally. Financial freedom for me is being able to travel and spend time with my daughters who are 18 and 22, to not have to be so tied to something that is not really serving you in the long run. And I personally never thought I would find financial freedom, and I'm hopeful that that will happen for me this year. And I'm thrilled and excited for it and can't wait.
Oh, congrats. I love that.
Thank you.
Sounds like it's been a good year for you so far.
Well, it's actually been a really challenging year, but in the end, I think changing what was important to me really changed the game, right? Realizing it's not about the stuff. It's not about keeping up with the Joneses, as they say. I would rather be spending time, and financial freedom is the gift of time in many, many ways.
And do you have a trip on the books?
I do. Yeah. I'm going to Mexico in the fall, but I hope to add a couple others in there somewhere.
Well, we appreciate you, Tia, coming on, sharing your expertise, sharing this with our community. I know it's going to be an impactful one. And so we thank you for all the work that you're doing. And we encourage our listeners to reach out if they have questions, check you out online, all that good stuff, so they can use all of these wonderful resources. And so until next time, I hope everyone is financially fearless. You've been listening to Women in Money, the shit we don't talk about. Now it's time to take what you've learned and make bold moves towards financial independence. Stay in the know by joining our newsletter for exclusive tools, resources, and updates that keep you financially fearless. Head to pursestrings.co and sign up today. Need a financial professional who gets it? Turn to Purse Strings' curated directory, your go-to resource for financial experts who know how to put you first. Love this episode? Leave us a review and help us empower even more women to own their financial power. Until next time, be financially fearless.